Hey, it's Drybear. The Freyna rework has opened up some brand new builds for her play, so whether you're planning to use Freyna now or you're saving for Ultimate Freyna, this build will still apply. Now, yesterday I went over all of the mechanics that changed for Freyna and how her poison works now. The long and short of it is that all of her poison sources before got turned into individual debuffs so that they can coincide on the same target if you're able to do it. However, a new build is very viable right now for farming on Freyna, and that is the Contagion build that allows you to use the Contagion mod, and you can just spread poison infinitely all over the place, destroying all of the areas. It's super fun to play. So today we're going to be talking about the Contagion focused build, which I'm going to call Blastblight. Now, this is the full build sheet. This has everything that you need to get the build completed. And again, this is going to work on Ultimate Freyna or regular Freyna. I did invest in regular Freyna to get builds out before Ultimate Freyna comes out. But if you're a person that's saving for Ultimate Freyna so you don't have to waste your catalysts or whatever, you can actually just use this as a reference in 2 weeks on October 10th when that comes back. Now, there's a couple things that we need to know about the Contagion modification for the abilities that we will apply to this build specifically that makes it work in general. So what Contagion does is that when an enemy afflicted by Room Zero trauma dies, it infects nearby enemies with Room Zero trauma. So it will still cause an explosion when the Room Zero trauma target dies, and it also still gets rid of all of your poison effects. So you lose all your poison effects, all 5 of your poison dots are gone when you have this Contagion mod equipped. Then when a target has a Room Zero of any kind from any source, all 5 of your abilities will apply a Room Zero to the target so that you'll have Room Zero on them. And then when the enemy dies, they will explode, applying Room Zero to everyone else. And then that makes sure that when those targets die, they're taking damage from Room Zero. Then when they explode, they will also apply it as well. On top of that, while you have Contagion equipped, when you normally get your passive to proc, like your passive normally drops a puddle when an enemy dies that has Room Zero. When you have Contagion equipped and it's not listed in the description, it will drop 3 puddles instead of 1. So when you're normally using this without Contagion, if you apply Room Zero to a target and then destroy the target, they will drop a puddle onto the ground when they die with Room Zero. So that's this kind of darker color here, and it's because I have a lot of range that's going on. However, if you were to equip the Contagion module instead and have this on, instead of dropping 1 puddle, it'll shoot 3 puddles out in a triangular formation, which gives even more spread. And yes, while you have Contagion, it still applies Room Zero from the puddle as well. So if we were to apply Room Zero to this target and then kill the target, you'll notice that it's dropping 3 puddles. This is without the puddle itself, and it's just creating puddles all over the place. So you're spreading Room Zero from the Contagion spread, but also spawning lots of puddles that spread Room Zero, which means this can infinitely spread to other targets, constantly spreading itself across a room. Now, there's a couple challenges with this and a couple different directions you could take. The big thing that I think Freyna suffers from the most, especially if you're going to use an ability-focused build on her, is that she has generally, on average, longer cooldowns than most Descendants, and she also has very high mana cost as well. So to make this work, all we're going to do is we're going to run a lot of range to make sure that the spread and the puddles that we create spreads between targets very efficiently. The more range you have, the more it can easily keep ticking and spreading and propagating itself. Then we're going to run extreme cooldown reduction as well. We're going to have MP conversion, which is the highest cooldown per purple that you can get, nimble fingers, multi-talented, and then we're also going to be running skill cooldown on our Reactor as well. And this allows us to get our ultimate, our unique weapon ability, down to about 20 seconds, and then our one ability to about 2 seconds, which is very easy, very reproducible, and we're allowed to mix that in between. Then when it comes to weapons, we're going to run Secret Garden and Greg's Reversed Fate. The reason we run Secret Garden is because the passive allows us to scale up our skill power and our firearm attack, and it works great with her overall kit. And I ran this with a build where you just spam your 1 and your 3 for puddles, and I ran it with a build with a mixture of the two, and then also with a build using the unique weapon, your ultimate. And I think that the ultimate build, while focusing on just the 1 activation, is the strongest version of this build because it allows you to take out elites and commanders and champions very easily while you're going through and killing single target, and your poison is killing everything in AoE. Because a lot of the times you don't really need too much damage to kill mobs in the First Descendant. Most of them will die from 1 or 2 ticks of your poison, spread more poison and keep exploding, and oftentimes you don't really need to do too much. You just need to kind of shoot out a couple shots. On top of this, Secret Garden is an excellent weapon. It's one of the best weapons in the game. It has has one of the highest single target damages in the game, which means that you can very easily spread your poison by shooting out a single of your first ability, a single use of it, and then when you need to burn single target, you can switch to your unique weapon, which has crazy damage for single target, allows you to burst, and it also does apply room 0 to targets as well, which means that you have a great combination. This is definitely one of the best mobbing builds in the game right now as you mix all of these together. Now for the reactor, we're going to want to mount Secret Garden, and we want a toxic tech reactor. This one is not active right now, but it should probably be up in the next 2 weeks, available to farm if you're looking for it. And we are getting a reactor implanting system was what they're calling it for the reactors on October 10th as well. And this will allow you to take a mount specific weapon and put it on another reactor. So once you get the right stats on a reactor, you'll be able to change the mount on it to fit whatever it is you're looking for. And supposedly we'll be able to have 3 different weapon mounts on a reactor. And as long as you're meeting one of them, you'll be able to activate the passive bonus. On top of this, you want to run skill cooldown and tech power boost. Based on discussions with my chat yesterday, we tested which power would provide the most. Tech provides a little bit more power pound for pound than toxic power does, but in all things being equal, if you know that tech is slightly better than toxic power and you can have equal amounts of both, why wouldn't you get the tech power that's better? So we're going to run skilled cooldown and tech power boost on this. Unfortunately, when you have Contagion and it takes your poisons away, you won't be able to stack the Venom Essence external component set. So in this case, we're going to run 2 Venom Essence for the toxic power and 2 Annihilation for the skill duration. This allows us to get a little bit more duration on our ultimate, on our unique weapon, so we can fire off all the rounds, and also allows us to add duration to all of our puddles, all of our dots, all of our explosions, keeping things moving between targets and between mob packs. And then we also have the power coming from the Venom Essence on top of this, and I think the best combination is going to be using the auxiliary power and the sensor from Venom Essence and the memory and the processor from Annihilation. You could, if you wanted to, run with the Annihilation auxiliary power here to get an extra defense on this. You can get 3 defense rolls and 1 HP, but for this I like having 2 max HP, and then Annihilation has an extra max HP roll on it, so you can put those 2 together. It gives you more max HP, which I think is really all you need for mobbing, is just a lot of HP to make sure that you don't die to any random shots or ranged attacks from the mobs that are running towards you. Also, one of the cool things about Freyna's unique weapon is it does get value from some of the modules you have from your equipped weapon. For this build, you pretty much want to have Secret Garden in your hands at all times, because not only does it have a great passive, and that is every time you use a tech skill, you have a chance to grant yourself a pest control stack, which will give you firearm attack and skill power stacking up, which is massive. Now, keep in mind that if you don't have a 4 out of 4 Secret Garden, the trigger rate is going to be lower and it's going to be harder to maintain the buff, so it is worth farming out all of those nanotubes to get your 4 out of 4 on your Secret Garden. But once you do it, it's worth it. And again, even if you don't use it for Freyna, this is one of the best weapons in the game, so it's very easy to pick this up and use it on many other characters. Even if you don't even use the passive at all, the core stats on the weapon are absolutely stellar. However, another thing to know about Freyna is that her unique weapon gains some of the effects from the modules on the weapon you have in your hand. So right now, if I have extra rounds on my weapon for the modules, right, so we're going to be running with those on the weapon. If I activate my my weapon, it actually will go up to between 80 and 85 maximum rounds, which allows you to shoot even more, and it gives you a massive damage increase. You also notice that I am being affected by mental focus right now, which gives you even more power on that as well. But if I take off my rounds components, my modules, and I activate again, you'll notice that I have 45, which is the base value of how many rounds you can have for this as well. Now, there is a balancing act of getting enough duration and enough fire rate to fire through these. You can see that I burned through all of those, but you can get significantly more rounds on your Secret Garden with a roll on the passive and then the 2 mods on it. And it also is affected by fire rate, so getting fire rate up means that you'll be able to fire through that as well. If you don't want to use mental focus, you can use sharp precision shot, which allows you to burn up more of those shots quicker by giving you a faster ramping attack speed if you want to use that as well. I like mental focus better for this just because we have enough rounds to benefit from it, but in general, I think it's better for the Secret Garden in general as a basic weapon, but you could also run SPS as an option as well. So you'll notice on the build sheet, we have weapon tuning and expand weapon charge, as well as fire rate up. Those 3 mods are the most important to have on your Secret Garden, and if you are only using this for Freyna, you can run rounds per mag on the weapon as well, which will give you extra rounds. However, if you wanted to run this weapon for other characters, it's great on Ajax, it's great on Kyle, it's great on Jaber, it's great on a ton of different people. You can even run it with no synergy and still great weapon and you don't want to roll gold rounds per mag on it, you can certainly run with a different strat like crit chance here, and you'd be perfectly fine with that. You would just miss out on 5 or 6 rounds on the unique weapon that you have for your Freyna. Now, the main thing you'll be running into with this build is going to be just managing having enough spread without consuming your mana. We do have a lot of skill cost reduction on this. We have MP recovery. If you're finding that you're running out of mana very aggressively with this build, you'll want to make sure you have the components that have MP recovery modifier, MP recovery in combat, MP recovery out of combat, and max MP to make sure you have enough there. Of course, we have maximized conservation for skill cost reduction, which allows us to constantly be able to throw these out, and you'll notice you'll still be consuming a lot of mana. So just be kind of pious on how you utilize your abilities. You really only need to shoot a single use of your first ability to be able to shoot it out, make it spread once it's on the ground, especially once you have maximum range and radius. It spreads everywhere, all over the place. Use your ultimate, your unique weapon, to deal damage. This will still spread your poison as well, which gives you a very easy way to get AoE damage done. And on top of that, you can also just use your second ability to activate multi-talented to get better cooldown on your ultimate as well, which brings it down to a much shorter cooldown. It starts at like 20.6 and it'll go down to the low teens if you're able to keep multi-talented stacked up while you're using the second ability. Another thing to keep in mind is that default Freyna comes with 2 rutile slots built in. If you see that there is no like empty slot option for these, you know that it came with the character or the weapon. So these 2 slots here, the rutiles, are baseline for Freyna, and we do use them in the exact spot for this build that I have on my build sheet. It's very possible that we get 2 more that are also very useful for ultimate Freyna, which means that the cost of catalysts will go down for this build. But as it stands right now, you'll need 9 catalysts plus the 2 default slots. You basically have to catalyze every slot except for your Transcendent module slot, which you will need to upgrade to get this fully kitted out as you have it seen here. And then we'll see once we have ultimate Freyna what the extra 2 catalyst slots are, and maybe we can even reduce this down from 9 to 7, which means it'll be even easier to pick up. This is a great option. Honestly, Bunny is still a little bit faster because of this, but this is a very respectable mobbing build, and you can run this for almost any mobbing scenario, especially if you run it with Secret Garden, which is a powerhouse for single target. And with this build focusing on the unique weapon, it gives you great combination of AoE and single target. You can farm basically anything except for Colossus with this build specifically. But of course, we'll be working on other Freyna builds. This is going to be her mobbing Blastblight Freyna in honor of the upcoming Monster Hunter game. And on top of that, we'll be exploring other options as well. So let me know what you think down below. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people. And don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.